Vivian Malauulu.
Hello, Long Beach. Welcome to our beautiful LBCC. This is home of the Long Beach College Promise, where 2 years of free tuition started. My name is Vivian Malauulu, and I am an educator. I'm a longshore worker. I am a trade unionist. I am the first Latina elected to the Board of Trustees of this institution. I am an immigrant. I am a wife, and most importantly, I am a mother. I was born in San Pedro Sula, Honduras. I came to this country when I was 7 years old and I spoke zero English. I am the product of hardworking parents and access to good public education. That education gave me the opportunity to pursue and achieve my dreams. I am here today because I believe that we must make a promise to our children, a promise that gives them a clear pathway to education, to a good job with a living wage, to access to health care as a human right, and to the right to have a say in their working conditions by associating with their co-workers in a democratically elected labor union. And that's because democracy in the workplace is a fundamental part of our democratic tradition in this country. The promise we must make to our children, the promise in Bernie Sanders' program for education, in his commitment to the right to join a labor union, in his guarantee for health care as a human right, is our moral duty. We have a responsibility to be a part of change for the sake of our country and the sake of our children. Bernie Sanders understands that it will take all of us standing together to build the world that we all deserve and that our children deserve. Bernie Sanders is the real deal. Look at his record. He has never wavered. He is a champion and an organizer. Let's work together to fulfill that promise to our children. Please welcome Senator Bernie Sanders.
Thank you all for coming out tonight. Let me thank the Omar Ruiz and his band. Let me thank Carlos Marroquin for the great work that he is doing in trying to create a democratic financial system in the state. And let me thank Vivian Malauulu for the work that she is doing in the trade union movement and for public education here in London. I am here tonight for several reasons. I'm here to ask for your help to win the Democratic primary in the great state of California. I am here tonight to ask for your help to win the Democratic nomination. I am here tonight to ask for your help to defeat the most dangerous president in the history of this country. But I am here tonight to ask for even more, because our job is not just to defeat Trump and his racism and his xenophobia and his sexism. Our job together is to transform this country and to create a government and an economy that works for all of us, not just the 1%. Donald Trump and his friends are working overtime trying to divide us up, which is what demagogues always do. Demagogues are cowards and they are bullies. And they pick on people who are politically helpless. Well, we got news for Donald Trump. We are not going to allow ourselves to be divided up. We're going to come together, black and white, Latino, Asian American, Native American. We are going to come together, gay and straight, immigrants and native born. And we are going to come together as one people to tell the corporate elite they will no longer get it all, that this country, our government, belongs to all of us, not just the few. Now, in Congress and in the corporate media, there is not a whole lot of talk about perhaps the most important domestic issue that we face, and that is the grotesque level of wealth and income inequality. Now, Congress may not talk about it, media may not talk about it, we will talk about it. It is not acceptable to me, nor the American people, that today we have 3 people owning more wealth than the bottom half of American society. It is not acceptable that the top 1% now owns more wealth than the bottom 92%. It is not acceptable that at a time when millions of people in Vermont, California, and all over this country are working 2, 3 jobs to keep their heads above water, that 49% of all new income goes to the top 1%. It is not acceptable that CEOs of major corporations now make 300 times what their workers make. It is not acceptable that half of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. And that's the reality in America. We're going to talk about it, but more importantly, we're going to do something about it. It is not acceptable that in this great country, wealthiest country in the history of the world, we have the highest rate of childhood poverty, of almost any major country on earth. And I get sick and tired of hearing politicians tell us how much they love America, but apparently they do not love the children. If you love America, you will love our children and treat them with the respect and dignity that they deserve. When we talk about what goes on in our economy, what we have seen in the last 30, 40 years is a massive transfer of wealth from the middle class and working class of this country to the top 1%. Over the last 30 years, the top 1%, listen to this, top 1% have seen a $21 trillion increase in their wealth. Bottom 50% have seen a $900 billion decline in their wealth. So whether the 1% likes it or not, we are going to create an economy where there is a fair distribution of wealth and income. Create an economy where all of our people, our children, our elderly, our veterans, the working families of this country enjoy a decent standard of living. Now, how does it happen? How does it happen that if after all of the speeches and all of the party platforms and all of the legislation, that we are at a moment in history where we have so much income and wealth inequality. We are at a moment where 40 million people are living in poverty. We are at a moment where tonight 500,000 fellow Americans will be sleeping out on the streets or in emergency shelters. How does that happen? And I will tell you exactly how it does happen. It happens because we have a corporate elite whose religion is greed. This is a corporate elite that literally wants more and more tax breaks for the rich and large corporations, and then they come to Congress and they say, cut Social Security, cut Medicare, cut Medicaid, cut education. This is a corporate elite where last year on Wall Street, the 5 largest banks made $110 billion in profit. This is a corporate elite which charges the American people the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, and yet top 10 companies made $69 billion in profit. This is a corporate elite where the insurance industry made $23 billion in profits last year, and they work overtime trying to deny people the claims that they are entitled to. This is a corporate elite where the fossil fuel industry last year made $48 billion while their product is destroying our planet. This is a corporate elite where the top 10 defense contractors made $26 billion in profit, while the Pentagon has not yet had a successful independent audit. So that is what we are up against. We are up against people who have incredible economic power, who have incredible political power, because as a result of that disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision, billionaires are now able to buy elections. Now, I say all of that because I want to be honest with you and to tell you that when we speak about our campaign, we're not just talking about Bernie. What we are talking about, us, not me. Now, what do I mean by that? What do I mean by that? Is that just a catchy bumper sticker? Well, yes, it is. But it is far more than that. It is a profound philosophical and political statement. When we talk about us, not me, what we understand is that we are in this together. That means that my job as an American citizen is to worry about the needs of you and your family, and your job is to worry about my family. That's what being in it is together. But there is another profound political statement when we talk about us, not me. So let me tell you what no other presidential candidate will tell you. And that is, no president, not Bernie Sanders or anybody else, can do it alone. I wish I could tell you otherwise. I wish I could tell you, vote for me, elect me president, I'm going to deal with all of the concerns of America. But if I told you that, I would be lying to you, and I'm not going to lie to you. So when we talk about us, not me, what that means is the only way we transform this country is when millions of people from Vermont to California begin to stand up and create an unprecedented grassroots movement. A grassroots movement that looks around them and says that the status quo may be working for the billionaire class, but it is not working for ordinary Americans, and together we're going to change that. Together we are going to stand up to Wall Street and break up the major financial institutions. Together we are going to stand up to the drug companies and cut prescription drug costs in half. Together we are going to stand up to the private insurance companies and pass Medicare for all. Together, we are going to stand up to the fossil fuel industry and tell them no longer will they be able to destroy our planet. And together, we are going to stand up to the private, profitable corporations and the 1% and tell them that under a Bernie Sanders administration, yes, they are going to start paying their fair share of taxes. And when we talk about why nothing significant happens on the Republican leadership, it has everything to do with the power of the corporate elite. And let me give you one tragic example of that. Everybody here has seen and heard and been entirely demoralized by the tragedies that we have seen in the last week right here in California, in El Paso, and in Dayton, Ohio. And we shake our heads and we ask ourselves, how could it possibly be that in this country we have deranged people who walk into a mall, to a Walmart, who walk into an active social area, nightclubs, take out a gun and start killing our fellow Americans. And this is demoralizing, this is painful, this is hard to even talk about. But from coast to coast, what the American people are saying, we have got to do something about this insane gun violence. This is not me talking, not you talking. This is what the American people want. They want common sense gun safety legislation which says we're going to expand background checks to make sure that nobody in America owns a gun who should not have the right to own a gun. That we're going to do away with the gun show loophole. That we're going to make sure that when somebody legally walks into a gun shop and buys many guns, that person is not allowed through the straw man provision to sell those guns to criminal elements. And in my view, this has been my view for 30 years. And I think the American people are catching on now. That assault weapons of war are weapons of war designed to kill as many people as possible in a short period of time. And more and more Americans understand that we must ban the sale and distribution of assault weapons in this country. Now, these are not radical ideas. These are not radical ideas. This is what the American people want. So how come Congress in the Senate, how come the Senate is not passing this legislation? And the answer is that the Republican leadership is intimidated by the NRA. So tonight I say to the Republican leader in the Senate, Mitch McConnell, have the guts to stand with the American people, have the guts to stand up to the NRA, bring us back to Washington, let us pass common sense gun legislation. When we talk about where we must go, I want to tell you and want to thank you because over the last 4 years, because of your efforts, we have made some real progress in this country. When I came to California 4 years ago, and I said, you know, maybe we should raise the minimum wage to a living wage. 4 years ago, that seemed like a radical and crazy idea. I am happy to tell you now that 7 states in this country, including California, have done just that. And I'm happy to tell you that several weeks ago, the U.S. House of Representatives did just that. So now I say again to the cowardly Republican leadership in the Senate, do the right thing. Bring the House bill to the floor of the Senate and let us pass a $15 an hour minimum wage. And by the way, it's not just raising that minimum wage to a living wage. It is also making it easier for workers to join unions. And when we talk about wages, together we're going to end the absurdity of women making 80 cents on the dollar compared to men. We believe in equal pay for equal work. Four years ago, when I came to California, I said, you know, in a competitive global economy, we have to rethink what public education means. It's no longer good enough to talk about public education being K through 12.
My camera's little too.
And we have got to make public colleges and universities tuition free. Well, 4 years ago, that was a radical idea. You can't do that, Bernie. Well, guess what? Here in California and all over this country, in Tennessee, in New York, states and communities are moving forward to make public colleges and universities tuition free. 4 years ago, I said, you know, we got an absurd situation in that we have told our young people that in order to get ahead, to do the right thing, you need to go to college. You need to get a good education if you're going to go out there and get the good jobs that are available. That's what we told the young people, and they did. And the result of that is millions of young people graduated school or they dropped out of college, deeply in debt. How many people here owe college debt? I should have asked how many people do not have college debt. 45 million Americans are now dealing with debt that amounts to about $1.5 trillion. And I learned about this a couple of years ago when a young lady in Burlington, Vermont, who was a doctor working in a community health center, when she said, Bernie, look, I love my job. I'm so happy I was able to go to medical school, but I'm $300,000 in debt. And I couldn't believe that. And then I heard in Iowa a young woman telling me she went to dental school, $400,000 in debt. And we got people who go to graduate school. I sat down with some young people from Howard University who are going to be teachers. They're $100,000, $150,000 in debt as they prepare to go into the teaching profession. So I thought about all of this stuff. And I thought about talking to people from coast to coast who literally cannot get married and have kids because of their student debt. They can't buy a home because of their student debt. They can't buy a car because of their student debt. Every month they're paying off that student debt. Meanwhile, the millennial generation, for the first time in the modern history of America, will, unless we turn it around, have a lower standard of living than their parents. So the conclusion that I reached is that if we could bail out 11 years ago the crooks on Wall Street, if Trump and his friends can give over $1 trillion in tax breaks to the top 1% and large profitable corporations, if they could do that, we can cancel all student debt in America. Say, well, Bernie, you know, you want to make public colleges, 4-year colleges, 2-year colleges, tuition free, you want to cancel all student debt. That's an expensive proposition. It is. It is about a $2.2 trillion program over a 10-year period. It's a lot of money. But we are going to pay for that by asking our good friends on Wall Street, who we bailed out, we're going to impose a very modest speculation tax on Wall Street, which will raise more than enough money. So we have got to stop thinking small and start thinking big. We cannot any longer afford tax breaks for billionaires, huge military budgets, endless wars. We've got to focus on the needs of the working families of this country, and canceling student debt is one of those things. Four years ago, I came to California and I said, you know, If every other major country on earth can guarantee health care to all of their people as a right, so can the United States of America. And once again, we were told this is a radical and extreme idea, something the American people will never go for. Well, guess what? Poll after poll after poll shows us that that is exactly what the American people want. What the American people now understand is that it is absurd that we maintain a dysfunctional system in which today 87 million Americans are either uninsured, completely zero insurance, or underinsured with large deductibles and co-payments. The American people understand that we cannot maintain a system in which 30,000 Americans die each year because they don't get to the doctor when they should, because they're underinsured or they're underinsured. The American people understand that it is totally grotesque and immoral that this year 500,000 Americans will go bankrupt because they suffered a serious illness and cannot afford to pay their medical bills. The American people, I mean, just think about that for a moment. If you are sick, if you're struggling with cancer or heart disease, you got to focus on getting better. That's what your mission is. You should not have to worry about your family going bankrupt simply because you had a serious illness. The American people understand. The American people understand that it is unacceptable that in America we pay the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. A week ago, Sunday, I was in Windsor, Ontario with a number of people from the Middle West, and we went to Canada in order to purchase insulin. All of the people that I went with were diabetic, and they need insulin to stay alive. We went to Windsor, Ontario, and we bought the exact same vial of insulin that they bought in the United States for 1/10 of the price. And it's not just insulin, it is prescription drug after prescription drug sold in Canada or sold in Europe at a fraction of the price that is sold here in the United States. And the American people are sick and tired of the greed of the pharmaceutical industry. Now, my critics, and by the way, what you are going to see, mark my words on this one, what you will see is the healthcare industry, which made $100 billion last year. You got that? That's the drug companies and the insurance companies alone made $100 billion a year. Profits are soaring for the healthcare industry when so many of our people are unable to go to the doctor or they become bankrupt. These greedy people will spend hundreds of millions of dollars to defeat our effort to pass Medicare for all. And they're going to say, oh, this is so complicated, it's going to disrupt the system. And that is absolutely untrue. It's going to bring stability to the system. What we are talking about, so you all understand, right now, every single year, 50 million Americans lose the private insurance they have. Whenever you change a job, you likely lose your private insurance. If you quit your job, you lose it. If your employer says, hey Joe, guess what? We've changed insurance companies. You got a new insurance policy. 50 million people every single year. And what we are simply doing is taking the most popular health insurance program in America, which is called Medicare. All right? We are expanding Medicare benefits for the elderly to include dental care, hearing aids, and eyeglasses. And then in year one, over a 4-year period, this is all that it is. We start off right now, Medicare eligibility is 65. Year one, we cover all of the children. We expand those benefits. We go from 65 down to 55. There are millions of people in this country who are 60, 62, who have no health insurance or inadequate health insurance, who are desperately trying to get into Medicare. Wait till they're 65. We are going to lower that age to 55 first year, 45 second year, 35 third year, and then we cover every man, woman, and child with comprehensive health care. And let me be clear, this is comprehensive health care, including dental care, including mental health care. This is comprehensive health care, which says no more premiums, no more deductibles, no more out-of-pocket expenses. In Canada, if you have a heart transplant, if you have any kind of serious surgery and you're in the hospital for weeks or months, when you come out, there is no bill. That is what a civilized democratic society is about. Under Medicare for all, there are going to be a lot of lies about what we're trying to do. It means the freedom of choice regarding any doctor you want, any hospital you want, any clinic you want. Now, the bottom line here is this really is not a debate about health care, because it is impossible for anyone to defend a dysfunctional health care system in which we spend twice as much per person as do the people of any other country, and yet we have so many people uninsured, underinsured, and we pay outrageous prices for prescription drugs. Nobody can defend that. So what this is all about is whether we have the capability of standing up to the greed of the healthcare industry, which made $100 billion in profits last year. That is what this struggle is about. And what I believe, and I know you believe, is the function of healthcare is to provide quality care for all, not making the insurance companies and the drug companies unbelievably rich. Healthcare, I see it as a human rights issue. When we talk about the greed and the dysfunctionality of Washington, we cannot not speak about the crisis of climate change. Now we have a president who, among many other attributes, happens not to believe in science. He is too busy spreading his racism and his sexism and his xenophobia to read any literature about the crisis of climate change. But all of you know that the debate over climate change is over. The scientists are virtually unanimous in telling us not only that climate change is real, but it is bringing mass destruction, not just to the United States, but to countries all over the world. And what the scientists tell us, and this is pretty scary, they say we have less than 12 years to transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy, or else there will be irreparable damage done to our planet. Now, my view is that it is not acceptable that the fossil fuel industry destroy this planet for their short-term profits. And that is why, and the other point that we have to know is that climate change, as everybody here knows, Donald Trump doesn't quite get it, is not just an American issue, it is obviously a global issue. That's what it is. So our job as the most powerful nation on earth, where we have great scientists and great engineers, our job is not only to transform our own energy system, but lead the world in transforming the global energy system. Now, I may be a little bit utopian here, but this is what I will try to do. Can't guarantee that we'll succeed. But as President of the United States, what I will do is reach out to Russia and to China and to India and Pakistan and Brazil and the countries in Africa and Asia, all over the world, and make it clear that it is insane that we as a planet continue to spend $1.5 trillion on weapons of destruction designed to kill each other. That instead of spending money to kill each other, we have got to use those resources to come together to combat our common enemy, which is climate change. And when we do that, when we transform our energy system, we will create millions of decent-paying union jobs in this country and jobs all over the world. And we say to our brothers and sisters who work in the fossil fuel industry, we understand that you are struggling to feed your families. You are not our enemy. And there will be a just adjustment for those workers who are displaced. We will get them the jobs, the education, and the health care that they deserve. They are not our enemy. And when we talk about crises in America that should not exist in the wealthiest country on earth, we must talk about the crisis in affordable housing. Tonight, as I mentioned earlier, in America, we're going to have over 500,000 people sleeping out on the streets or in emergency shelters. Today in America, we have some 18 million families spending 50% of their limited incomes on housing. What our job is to make it clear that just as healthcare is a human right, just as education is a human right, so is the right to have affordable, decent housing. There are many, many things that we have got to do. We have to build 7-8 million new units of affordable housing. We have to build low-income housing, rental units, to make sure that we get people off of the streets. We have to put more money into the Section 8 program. We have to give communities around this country the flexibility to do rent control if that is what they want to do. Now, I know that rent control gets some real estate people a little bit nervous. Doesn't get me nervous. I grew up in a rent-controlled apartment. And we have got to end gentrification in this country. It is not acceptable that real estate developers and speculators come into a community and buy up the housing, the affordable housing that working class people have lived in some cases, for their entire lives. And then they build new units, and only the wealthy can afford them. So we have got to give communities the tools to combat gentrification. And by the way, if a developer wants to come in and build expensive housing, we're going to tell him he's also going to build affordable housing at the same time. Let me say a word to our immigrant brothers and sisters. I am the proud son of an immigrant. Like many other families in America, my father came to this country at the age of 17, came alone, without a nickel in his pocket, couldn't speak a word of English, and came with very limited education. And he never made much money, but he became the proudest American you ever saw, because he saw what this country could do for him and his family. So I say to Donald Trump, I and all of the other immigrant families in this country, we helped build America. We have done the dirty work, we have done the dangerous work, we have done the jobs that do not pay us a living wage. And we are sick and tired of Trump demonizing the immigrant community. And that is why together we will pass comprehensive immigration reform for the 11 million undocumented and a path toward citizenship. That is why on my first day in office, I will sign an executive order to restore legal status to the 1.8 million young people in the DACA program. And that is why we will develop a humane border policy which understands that if a mom and her children travel 1,500 miles to escape violence and poverty, they are not criminals. We will treat them with the respect that they do. And when we are in the White House together, we are going to finally reform a broken and racist criminal justice system. This is America, and we will not have more people in jail, disproportionately African American, Latino, and Native American, than any other country on earth. Together, we are going to end the destructive so-called war on drugs. And together, we're going to expunge the records of those people arrested for marijuana possession. Together, we are going to invest in our young people, in jobs and education, not more jails and more incarceration. Today in America, 20% of the people in jail are guilty of one thing, and that is they are poor and cannot afford cash bail. People should not be in jail because they cannot afford bail. We're going to end cash bail. And tonight, we say to all Americans, but especially the women, that we get sick and tired of hearing politicians, conservative politicians, saying, we want to get the government off of our backs. We believe in small government. Well, if you want to get the government off the backs of the people, if you believe in small government, then understand that it must be women who control their own bodies. And not politicians. This campaign is the most consequential in the modern history of this country. We're not just talking about economics. We're not just talking about ending racism and sexism and homophobia and religious bigotry. We're not just talking about climate change and trying to save the planet. We are talking about saving democracy. Saving democracy from a president who obviously has not read the Constitution of the United States, who doesn't understand the separation of powers. Now, at the end of the day, this is the last point that I want to make. At the end of the day, the top 1% have unlimited, and I use the word unlimited, amounts of wealth and power. They control the economy, they own the media, and through their campaign contributions, they are able to elect all kinds of candidates from the Senate to the House to governors all over this country. They are enormously powerful and do not for a moment underestimate their power. But at the end of the day, the 1% is 1%. And we are 99%. We stand together and we don't allow Trump to divide us up because of the color of our skin or where we were born or the language that we speak or our sexual orientation or our religion. If we come together, brothers and sisters, we can transform this country. Let's go out and do it. Thank you.